This story takes place in 1978 and focuses on 5 young men that were best friends who lived in Yuba City, California. These 5 young men were all either mildly mentally disabled or had a mental health disability, but they were all very high-functioning individuals. They came to be known as the Yuba City Five. Before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the dark and mysterious with a little tarot thrown in for good measure, then I am the girl for you. I upload 2 to 3 times a week on this channel, and if you're really a fan of tarot, you can join me on my other channel, Jennifer Walker Zen. So if that's of interest to you, I would ask you to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so that you don't miss any of my uploads. Now, let's get into today's story. Jack Huett was 24 years old and was the youngest of the group. He was somewhat uncomfortable in social settings and didn't do well around strangers. But around his 4 best friends, he became the life of the party, telling jokes, being lighthearted, and very social. Theodore Weiher was 32, the oldest of the group. He took a big brother approach to Jack, even sometimes making phone calls on his behalf. Bill Sterling was 29 and extremely religious and would spend most of his time in the library where he would read Christian literature. Jack Madruga was 30 years old and a veteran, had been discharged from the Army after it was found that his IQ was too low. He was a designated driver of the Yuba City Five because he was the only one of the 5 to have a driver's license. And finally, you have Gary Mathias, who was by all accounts the ringleader. He was also a veteran, and he too was discharged in the Army after it was discovered he had schizophrenia. But after his doctors found the right mixture of medication, he really blossomed and was even able to hold down a part-time job. The glue that really brought these young men together was their love of sports, especially basketball. They were either discussing basketball or playing basketball. In fact, they were so much into basketball that they were all part of a Gateway program basketball team and were extremely passionate about their team. In February of 1978, their basketball team, along with a host of others, were slated to compete in a tournament where the winners of this tournament would get a free trip out to Los Angeles. Their tournament was supposed to start February 25th, but their favorite basketball team, UC Davis, was playing just 50 miles away from their tournament in Chico, California. So on February 24th, the night before the tournament, it was collectively decided that they would go to Chico to root for their favorite team, then drive back the same night and plenty of time for the tournament. They made it to Chico to root for their team, UC Davis, who won and then headed back. There were multiple witnesses that saw the Yuba Five at the game, so it's certain that they were there on the way back. They stopped off at a convenience store to get some soda and chips. This was confirmed from the shop owner that he remembered the large group coming in and being annoyed because he wanted to close. This was around 10 o'clock p.m., and this unfortunately would be the last time any of them were seen alive. Back home, some of the young man's parents had decided to wait up for them because it was so late. And the next morning, when they hadn't returned, the parents knew something was wrong because it was so uncharacteristic of them to stay out, knowing they had a huge tournament, and so authorities were called. The police officer in charge of the investigation was Lieutenant Lance Ayers. Ayers had gone to high school with Theodore. This personal connection made him extremely motivated to make sure they did everything in their power to find these young men. After the first few hours of the search yielded no results. It was Ayers himself that expanded the search area. It was because of this expanded search that just a few days later, the car of the Yuba Five were driving was found. It was presumed that after they got their snacks, they would have continued back to Yuba City. However, the car was found 70 miles away from both Chico and Yuba City, up in a remote forest on a dirt road. It was also strange that the car was left abandoned. Even though it was covered in snow, there was no indication that it was stuck or that they had ran out of gas because it was at least 1/4 of a tank full. Police also knew there were no mechanical issues because they hot-wired the car, and it instantly turned on. It's as if the car was placed in park and the men got out and left. Upon further investigation on the inside of the car, all that was found were empty milk cartons, soda cans, and snack wrappers. After the car was found and an extensive search of the area turned up nothing, and unfortunately the search had to be suspended due to a large snowstorm approaching. After the snowstorm had finally finished, the entire area was blanketed in thick snow. The search had to be suspended until spring. When things began to fall, during this time, the parents offered rewards for information, which yielded nothing. The police also fielded thousands of calls that led to nowhere. Then on June 4th, 1978, a little over 3 months since the men had gone missing, some motorcyclists that had been on a long trip happened to be on those mountains and those dirt roads where the car had been discovered. They were about 20 miles from the point when they discovered a cul-de-sac and decided to rest. In the cul-de-sac, they saw a trailer and decided to go exploring. As it turns out, this trailer belonged to a forestry service, but really wasn't that well maintained. Upon opening the trailer door, the motorcyclists were immediately hit with the stench of death. It was discovered that the smell from the trailer was coming from the decomposing body of Theodore, the oldest of the group. He was found with 8 blankets wrapped around him on a bed found in the trailer with his feet badly frostbitten and looking as if he had lost about half his body weight with a full-grown beard. Theodore died from a combination of starvation and exposure to the elements. But in the trailer, in plain sight, were tons of material to start a fire, such as paper, twigs, and lots of sticks. More importantly, matches. In addition to the fire-making materials, there were plenty of heavy clothing gear, and finally there was a propane tank connected to the back of the trailer that was completely full of gas and just needed to be turned on by hand. One could argue that Theodore lacked the ability to make a fire or use the food in the trailer. However, Gary's shoes were found in the trailer, and he certainly would have known at least to eat the food. He was a veteran in the Army, and if nothing else, they teach basic survival skills. Bill Sterling and Jack Madruga remains located 11 miles from where the car had been located. The remains had been badly savaged by wild animals in the area, but it was determined they both most likely died from hypothermia 2 days after Jack and Bill were found. Jack's remains were found 2 miles from the trailer where Theodore had been found. Jack had also died of hypothermia. 4 of the 5 were located. However, Gary Mathias, to this day, has never been found. There were some blankets and flashlights found about 1/4 of a mile away, but nothing conclusive has ever been found. Now that you know the story, let's get some answers. Join me in my investigation room. Hello, welcome to my investigation room. I want to preface this is for entertainment purposes only. I'm going to be using 4 different card systems: the Tarot, the Gypsy, the Lenormand, and the Kipper. So I feel like the best way to examine the situation is to look at what happened here, because we don't know how they ended up where they ended up. So let's talk about it. And I'm going to talk about the cards and what I feel. Okay, so let's go into it. So it looks like there was an opportunity that came up and a sudden decision that was made. Okay, let's clarify that. Okay. There was one particular person that really wanted to do something, and they were fighting for their position. They felt very passionate about it. So like, look, we can work together on this. Let's find a creative solution here, because this person was like, I really want this sense of independence towards this opportunity. I want to take a risk on this. I want to take a leap of faith. I want to go for it. And I felt like they were in a very happy mood. They were in a celebratory mood. And, it turned into something that was a little bit more defeated. It looks like there was the sense of, I'm going to miss this opportunity. I feel like this opportunity surrounded a feminine energy. Okay, so, and possibly giving this person a ride or doing something for this feminine energy. But definitely with this feminine energy, it caused a lot of regrets. And we see that there were some issues with loyalty or friendship that was taken away because of this meeting. there was somebody who really felt like they wanted to take charge of it, that they were the leader, and to go to this house, which caused this trapped energy. We see again this feminine energy and feeling like there was going to be some kind of abundance or something to do with money around the situation. And there were some deceptions here, or somebody wasn't being honest about the sense of work and effort in this long distance or far away, okay? So I definitely feel like there was some communication here, and you know, it was an abrupt decision, and there was this isolation or separation that happened. There was knowledge about this opportunity at a house, okay, and a surprise here, and there was having to be patient here, and there's this conversation that took place. So what I saw when I was doing the story was this group of people, they were wandering around, and it seemed like they had gotten lost. And so I feel like possibly what happened was it involved a feminine energy, possibly giving that person a ride, or maybe one of the people took advice from this person. And they were in a celebratory mood, so they made an abrupt action, a sudden action, which put them in a bad situation. And that is what I feel happened in this situation. If you guys like it this way, you want me to continue this way, hit that like button. Let me know in the comments below. I definitely want to hear from you guys and your thoughts on this situation. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys soon.